And this is meant to be a party. It's meant to be very informal. It's meant to have a good time. We will be reading the book of Esther. And I'm going to ask 10 of you, whoever wants to come up and read. I didn't bring the Bible up yet, but I will. It's sitting right there. We'll have a Bible up here. Come up and read a chapter. Did we pass out the groggers yet? Do we have groggers? Are they passed out yet? Oh, we need to pass out the groggers. For those of you who have, anyone who has, I don't think there's any small children, the metal groggers have a slot in the bottom that is very sharp. Keep your fingers out, especially little ones. Watch the bottom of the metal ones. The metal ones have a little slot that's like a razor. If you stick your finger in it, don't let any of the little ones, if there's anybody here little, stick their fingers in it. The groggers are simply noisemakers. They're simply noisemakers. The tradition that surrounds the historic functioning of this particular holiday, it's named Purim because in the book of Esther, they wrote, Por means dice, Purim is dice, plural. And remember, they rolled the dice to see what day they would annihilate the Jewish people. It came up in the middle of Adar. So we call the festival Purim in interest of remembering once again the deliverance of God. I will tell you that one of the interesting things about the book of Esther is it does not mention God. And a lot of people question why it doesn't mention God. In my opinion, the book of Esther is about a group of people who are living their everyday lives in a place they really would be better off not being, and God intervenes throughout their life without ever showing up. But you see God in the white fire. He's there. He's right behind the scenes, just like he is with us. We're living in this world, and God is there behind the scenes. You don't see him openly, you don't see him readily, but it's the white fire. You see him behind everything that's going on. And that's the story of the book of Esther. Why mention God when God is always there? And just be aware that that's something that happens. When we read, we're going to put it up on the screen, but you can't see the screen. There are three main characters, and you are to cheer for the two chief characters, Mordecai and Esther. And then when you get to the name of the arch enemy, you are to make all the noise and drown his name. His name is Haman. If you're reading, don't read fast. Give people a chance to react. And it's meant to have a lot of fun. We're going to begin by giving back to God. Anything good in our life comes from God. I want to encourage you. I don't know how many times a week you thank God. I would guess I thank God 70 to 100 times a day. I thank God every time I pull into traffic and nobody hits me. I thank God for every safe journey I make. I thank God that I can find places even though I get lost very easily. And every time I get home, I thank God that he's got me home again. I don't take anything for granted. I like the little miracles in my life, and they are just incredible what God does for us, because I always pay attention to what God is doing and not to what God is not doing. And if you do that, you'll see God all the time, just like the book of Esther. He's always there. He's always doing things. And if we're not careful, we'll miss that. And we'll be focused on what he is not doing. In Matthew, Messiah, who is God, is rebuking the religious people of Jerusalem. And in Matthew 23:23, he says, "Woe to you, Torah scholars and Pharisees, hypocrites! You tithe mint and dill and cumin, yet you have neglected the weightier matters of the Torah, justice and mercy and faithfulness. It is necessary to do these things without neglecting the others." They tithed religiously, but their heart wasn't right. I want to encourage you just to give back to God. give back to God. If you want to designate any special gifts to help scholarship people for the Seder, just designate part of your gift or a separate gift for the Seder, and we'll know if you put a Seder, it's for the benefit of those in our congregation who are members who really can't afford to get to the Seder. We always have some people who are stretched a little bit thin, and you can give special gifts to help us help our people that can't get into our Passover Seder, which is coming up. So if you need an envelope to be properly received for cash donation, if you raise your hand as the ushers come down the aisle, they're happy to give you an envelope. If you're going to fill out an envelope, fill it out legibly so we can properly receipt you for your tax purposes. And again, if you're going to designate a gift, designate it clearly so that we can see that anything you give goes to where it goes. And I also just want to say thank you for showing up today. And I'm going to touch on this at the end of the announcements. I'm glad you don't let fear run your life. Fear is not from God. But Abba Shemayim, we offer these tithes and gifts and love offerings to you and ask you would take these and increase them to the building of your kingdom through this ministry, through Yeshua. Those of you online can give to click on the online giving. We appreciate particularly those of you who actually be here but are not coming because of whatever reason. Make sure you keep up by faith in giving back to God. Make sure you're inviting others. There's a lot of things happening that are very good. I'm not free to tell you everything that's going on, but we are on the radar of a lot of people. The concept of some of you who are faithful to go out and just knock on doors and pray for people has greatly impacted a lot of people in Manatee County. The community is well aware of the significance of this particular kingdom center. And there's a lot of belief that this kingdom center will change this entire neighborhood, including secular people who are talking about lining up with us because they see that this kingdom center is going to make an impact on this community, and they want to get in early to assist us. And I want to encourage all of you that are going door to door. It may not seem like you're doing a lot, but it's being talked about in every realm of leadership in Manatee County, from law enforcement to secular business leaders. Everybody's very excited about what we're doing here, and I want you to be encouraged to go out. And again, if you need prayer, ask me to pray for you. There's a prayer meeting every Shabbat from 9 to 10. They met in my office today. They move around. If you want to pray, ask us where it is, and we'll point you in that direction. A virtual prayer meeting every Sunday evening from 8 to 9. There's a phone number in the back. You just dial a phone, put in a code, and that's where you get intercession for your personal needs. I'm worried about my uncle. I'm worried about my daughter. I'm worried about my son. I'm worried about me. Pray for me. Pray for this need, that need, another need. That's the proper venue to get prayer that you want prayed over, and that group is geared to that. School of Deliverance starts this Thursday, and I want you to know we're not canceling anything unless the government makes us cancel something. I will not be ruled by the nothing of this world. We will not cancel services. We won't cancel our School of Deliverance. I think you can still sign up for that today. Can you still sign up for that today? You confirm that you're going to make it. Confirm that you're going to make it because we can let other people in. And if you want to get on the waiting list, do that. That starts this Thursday. It's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday afternoon. 7 p.m. Thursday. It will continue Friday and Saturday after the service. And that is a theology on deliverance. That's not let's go get delivered. This is theology that lays a foundation to the concept of biblical deliverance. Seder registration is open. It's very important for you to get your reservations in as quickly as possible. Even our venue is concerned that we might cancel the Seder. And we've told them, no, we're not canceling anything. But if you don't have your reservation in, put in your reservation now. Even if you can't pay it right now, say, I will pay later. Or if you need a scholarship, say, I need a scholarship. We don't guarantee scholarships. But if you're a member and you say, I can pay later, we can count on you being there. We can't guarantee any scholarships because we have to have the money comes in to cover that. And try to do that. The Seder is April the 8th. April the 8th. Next Shabbat, after the service, I will do a Pesach 101 teaching. This is something we do before any of the appointed times of the Lord. If you don't know what Pesach is, the 101 teaching, there are people who weren't raised this way, don't know what chametz is, doesn't know why you should get rid of the chametz, and how do you get rid of the chametz? And it's okay. Seder means order. If you don't know how to walk through a Seder, I will dutifully remember to teach you that next Saturday. Depending on how many people come to this, and I don't want you to be embarrassed. Not everybody was raised doing a Seder every year. All right? Now, because of ministry, I do 2-3 Seders a year as a rule for a long time. But if you haven't done this your whole life, it's okay. A 101 class is for you. I just don't know what this stuff is, and I don't know why I should do it or how to do it. That's what that is. We will find out what room we will use based on how many of you people we have coming to that 101 class. The smaller group will meet in a smaller room. A larger group will go to one of the larger rooms in the building. Okay? Next Sunday, a week from tomorrow, is the last picnic of the season. Weather's supposed to be nice. I encourage you to come out as a special treat marking our last picnic of this season. We have the ice cream novelty truck coming in to the picnic, same as last year's My Treat. At no cost to you, you can go over to the truck and get whatever kind of treat you want. I will cover the expenses on anyone that wants to do that. We do that just to celebrate. We celebrate the fellowship that God has given us and the fellowship of this Kingdom Center. It's a great thing. One of the greatest gifts outside of Messiah, the greatest worldly gift he has given us is the gift of one another. The gift of one another. And we intend to celebrate that. And finally, I want to talk about the coronavirus. This is coronavirus 19. And the Word of God says, I am Adonai, your God, who upholds your right hand, who says to you, fear not, I will help you. And I want you to understand, there is no reason for panic. There is no reason for panic. Fear does not come from God. The coronavirus is a serious flu. We have had already coronas 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. This is 19. All right? The previous coronaviruses were called the flu. This is big news, frankly, because I believe it is being peddled as fear and panic, and people are being absolutely stupid. They're being stupid. We will not choose to react in fear. I don't believe in paying attention to the nothing. It's okay to be cautious. You should be cautious in a flu season. This is a virulent flu. So it's okay to be cautious, but it's wrong to fear. It is wrong to fear. We have added hand sanitizers all over the place in the areas that you use, particularly here in the sanctuary. It's not that you have to use that. It's be comfortable with that. Let's not shake hands. Let's be cautious, but let us not be ruled by fear. And I just want to mention that in 2009 and 10, we had the last pandemic, which was swine flu. How many of you remember swine flu? How many Americans had swine flu? 600 million. Or 60 million, 60 million. We're not that big. How many ended up in the hospital? 300,000. Of those, how many died? About 14,000. And now, most people don't even remember the swine flu. And I'm telling you, this is a ridiculously focused on flu, but this too shall pass. This too shall pass. It's okay to be cautious. Nothing wrong with that. It's the stupidity of people who are running out. You can't buy hand sanitizer. You can't buy toilet paper because people are getting stupid. Let's not be stupid. It's not that it isn't real. It's just the reality. It's just the flu. It's a serious flu season. Let's be cautious. Nothing wrong with being cautious, but it is sin to fear. It is a sin to fear. And let's pray for those people who are out there. I'll give you an example. We were praying. A group of us were praying with the sheriff last Monday, and he has this concern. They've brought in 2 people so far that have tuberculosis. And the officers say, I had him back in my squad car. We handled it. What do we do? And now they have this coming up. And the concern of the sheriff's department is if they pick up somebody on the street, because they deal with people that aren't the most cautious people in the world, and bring it into their jail and their headquarters, and they quarantine the sheriff's department. And all the news is the sheriff's department in Manatee County has been quarantined. It's not good for the county. It's not good for anybody in the county. He said, pray that God will give us the wisdom and protect us. We need to pray for this kind of stuff. But as far as Beth Messiah is concerned, we're not going to cancel anything. I will not run this ministry on fear. I will not run this ministry on fear. I will not react to the fear. I said, I'm willing to put the hand sanitizers in the sanctuary so you can use them. It's okay to be cautious, but do not succumb to the fear. And if it's really bothering you, turn off the news. One of the big problems is during the swine flu, it wasn't 24/7-hour news talking about how bad swine flu was, so nobody really paid that much attention to us. They didn't quarantine anybody, they didn't stop any travel, and it hit pretty hard, and most people, they got it, simply recuperate, and that's the way it is now. Unless you're compromised, the average age of the virus death in the United States is 80. About 36 people, the last time I looked, because I don't pay attention, have died. 26 of those were in the same nursing home in Washington State. If it gets into a nursing home, it's not good because you have a lot of compromised people. So if you take out the nursing home, about 10 people have died from this, and they all had a compromised system. In Israel, no one under the age of 50 has died. In Europe, no one under the age of 40 has died. This doesn't kill you. Don't succumb to fear, kids. Be cautious, but don't succumb to fear. And don't worry about whether we're going to have the Seder. Don't worry about whether we're going to have a Shabbat service. The answer is we're not canceling anything. We will not cancel anything unless we are instructed by the government, because I render to Caesar, Caesar. And if I'm instructed by the government, we may, but I can't even see it. Because I am here to minister, we are here to praise God, and we are here to celebrate. We will continue to do so. And if other congregations choose to shut down, that's their business. Don't even think that maybe we won't be here. Of course we'll be here. I have no intention of canceling anything at all. And be careful you're not swept up into the panic. Because it's easy to get swept up in the panic, and you can go out and try to find toilet paper somewhere. And it's like, really? We live in an area with hurricanes, and when's the last time you saw people fighting over toilet paper? And I'm telling you, on the news last night, it showed people fighting over toilet paper. Now that's just ridiculous. It's fear. Fear does not come from God. Fear does not come from God. And if you have succumbed to some of the fear, ask Him to forgive you and walk on. Be cautious. Nothing wrong with being cautious. We're not shaking hands. That's just being cautious. That's fine. Fine to be cautious. Do not succumb to the fear. Be blessed, everybody. Shabbat shalom. We're going to begin to read the book of Esther. Let me get a Bible. If you're in the Purim Spiel, head for the preschool room, which is the first room in the hallway. The first room in the hallway. When you come up to read, try to read into the microphone. It does move up and down. It should be right in front of your face. I asked, when somebody reads a chapter, when you get to the end of the chapter, you stop and somebody else has to walk up. I'm going to trust you to be able to handle it. Who wants to start with chapter 1? Cheryl, thank you for volunteering.
Okey-dokey. This is what happened in the days of Ahasuerus. Ahasuerus, who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. At that time, King Ahasuerus sat on his royal throne in the castle of Shushan. In the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all his princes and his servants. The military leaders of Persia and Media, plus the nobles and officials of the provinces, were present. He displayed the vast wealth of his kingdom and the splendor and glory of his majesty for many days, 180 days. When these days were over, the king gave a banquet lasting 7 days in the garden court of the king's palace for all the people who were present in the palace of Shushan, for both the greatest to the least. There were white and blue linen curtains hung by cords of fine linen, and purple on silver rings and marble, columns gold and silver, couches on a mosaic pavement of alabaster, marble, mother of pearl, and minerals. Wine was served in golden goblets, each of which were different from the other, and the royal wine was abundant according to the king's wealth. In keeping with the law, there were no restrictions on drinking, for the king had instructed the supervisors of his household to comply with each person's desire. In addition, Queen Vashti held a banquet for the women in the royal palace of King Ahasuerus. Next. Okey-dokey. Oh, all right. Okey-dokey. On the 7th day, When the heart of the king was merry from wine, he commanded Mehuman, Bezetha, Harbona, Bigtha, Hagtha, Zethar, and Carcas, the 7 eunuchs who attended Ahasuerus the king, to bring Queen Vashti before the king wearing the royal crown. He wanted to show the peoples and the officials her beauty, for she was very attractive. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command, conveyed by the eunuchs. Then the king became furious and burned with anger. So the king consulted the wise men who discerned the times, for it was the king's practice to consult experts in matters of law and justice. Those closest to him were Karshena, Shethar, Admantha, Tarshish, Miris, Marcina, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, who had access to the king's presence and were the highest in the kingdom. By law, what is to be done with Queen Vashti, the failing to obey the command of the king, of King Ahasuerus, conveyed by the eunuchs? Then Memucan answered in the presence of the king and the princes. Queen Vashti had wronged not only the king, but also all the princes and peoples who are in the province of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's conduct will go out to all the women, making their husbands contemptible in their eyes by saying, King Ahasuerus commanded Queen Vashti to be brought in before him, but she would not come. This very day, the noble women of Persia and Media, who have heard of the matter concerning the queen, will respond similarly to all the king's princes, and there will be no end to the contempt and anger. If it pleases the king, let a royal commandment go forth from him. Let it be written in the laws of Persia and Media, which cannot be repealed, that Vashti may not come into the presence of King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal status to another who is more worthy than she. Then the king's edict, which he will enact, will be proclaimed throughout all the vast kingdom, and the wives will give their husbands honor from the greatest to the smallest. The matter pleased the king and the princes. For the king did according to the word of Memucan. He sent letters throughout all the royal provinces, to each province in its own script, and each people in their own language, that every man should be in charge of his own household and speak the language of his own people. I think that's it.
After these things, King Ahasuerus' anger subsided. He remembered Vashti and what she had done and what had been decreed against her. Then the king's servants who attended him said, Let a search be made on the king's behalf for beautiful young virgins. Let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, to gather together all the beautiful young virgins to the place at Shushan, in the house of the women, under the supervision of Haggai, the king's eunuch, who oversees the women. Let them be given beauty treatments. Let the young woman who pleases the king become queen instead of Vashti. This advice pleased the king, and he acted accordingly. There was a Jewish man in Shushan Palace, whose name was Mordecai, son of Jar, son of Shimei, son of Kish, son of a Benjamite, who who had been taken into exile from Jerusalem with the captives that had been given away with the king Jeroboam of Judah, who King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon had taken away. He had raised Hadassah. This is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The girl was attractive and had a beautiful figure. And when her father and mother died, Mordecai took her to him as his own daughter. After the king's order and decree became known, many young women were assembled in the palace of Shushan under the supervision of Haggai. Esther also was taken into the king's household under the supervision of Haggai, the guardian of the women. This young woman pleased him and found favor with him. He quickly arranged her beauty treatments and provided for her special food. He also provided her with 7 special chosen women from the king's household. Then he moved her and her maidens to the best place in the women's house. Esther had not disclosed her people or her lineage, because Mordecai had commanded her not to make them known. Every day Mordecai walked in front of the women's courtyard to find out how Esther was and what might happen to her. When each young woman's turn came to go to the king Ahasuerus at the end of the months as prescribed for the women, for this is the way they fulfilled their beautification: 6 months with oil and myrrh, and 6 months with perfumes and women's cosmetics. The young women would go to the king the same way. Whatever she asked for was given to her to take with her from the women's house to the king's palace. In the evening she would go, and in the morning she would return to the second women's house under the supervision of Shagasi, the king's other eunuch, guardian of the concubines. She would not go back to the king unless the king was pleased with her and summoned her by name. When the turn came for Esther, the daughter of Ashavai, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her as his daughter to go to the king, she did not ask for anything except that Haggai, the king's eunuch, the guardian of the women, advised. And Esther won favor in the eyes of all who saw her. Then Esther was taken to King Ahasuerus at the royal house in the 10th month, and in the month of Tevet, in the 7th year of his reign. Now the king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she won his grace and favor more than all the other virgins. So he placed the royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Then the king gave a great banquet, Esther's banquet, for all his princes and servants, and he proclaimed a holiday for the provinces and distributed gifts in keeping with the king's wealth. When the virgins were assembled a second time, Mordecai was sitting in the king's gate. Esther had not yet made known her lineage or her people, just as Mordecai had told her. Esther continued to follow Mordecai's instruction as he had done when he was bringing her up. In those days, while Mordecai was sitting in the king's gate, Bighan and Tash, 2 of the king's eunuchs who guarded the doorway, became angry and conspired to assassinate King Ahasuerus. But Mordecai found out about the plot and told Queen Esther. Esther informed the king of Mordecai's name. When the matter was investigated and found to be so, they were both hanged on the gallows, as it is written in the book of the Chronicles of the King's Presence. Amen.
Chapter 3. Haman hates the Jews. Sometime later, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, elevating him and setting his chair above all the officials who were with him. All the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and paid honor to Haman, for the king had commanded it. But Mordecai would not bow down or pay him honor. Then the king's servants who were at the king's gate said to Mordecai, "Why are you disobeying the king's command?" Day after day they spoke to him, but he would not listen to them. Therefore they told Haman, in order to see whether Mordecai's resolve would prevail, for he had told them that he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai was not bowing down or paying him honor, Haman was filled with rage, but it was repugnant in his eyes to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had told him the identity of Mordecai's people. So Haman sought to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, who were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus. In the first month, that is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast the pur, that is the lot, in the presence of Haman from day to day and month to month, up to the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. Haman then said to King Ahasuerus, "There is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your kingdom, whose laws differ from those of every other people, and who do not obey the king's laws. It is not in the king's interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let an edict be written to destroy them. I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who carry out this business, to put it into the king's treasuries." The king took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, enemy of the Jews. The king said to Haman, "The silver and the people are yours. Do with them as you please." The king's scribes were summoned in the first month, on the 13th day, and an edict was written as Haman had commanded. Everything Haman commanded was written to the king's provincial governors, and to the officials who were in every province, and to the officials of every people, province by province, according to its script, and people by people, according to its language. It was written in the name of King Ahasuerus, and sealed with the king's ring. Dispatches were sent by couriers into all the king's provinces, stating to destroy, slay, and annihilate all the Jews, from the youth to the elderly, both little children and women, on a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. A copy of the edict was to be issued as law in every province and made known to all people, so that they would be ready for that day. The couriers went out hurriedly with the king's command, and the edict was issued in the palace in Shushan. The king and Haman then sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was dumbfounded.
When Mordecai learned everything that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out through the city, lamenting and crying bitterly. He stopped before entering the king's gate, since no one was allowed to go inside the king's gate wearing sackcloth. In every province reached by the king's order and decree, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing, as many lay down on sackcloth and ashes. When the girls and officials attending Esther came and informed her of this, the queen became deeply distressed. She sent clothes for Mordecai to wear instead of his sackcloth, but he wouldn't accept them. So Esther summoned Hatak, one of the king's officials attending her, and instructed him to go to Mordecai and find out what this was all about and why. Hatak went out to Mordecai in the open space in front of the king's gate, and Mordecai told him everything that had happened to him and exactly how much silver Haman had promised to put in the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the decree for their destruction issued in Shushan, so that he could show it to Esther, explain it to her, and then instruct her to approach the king, intercede with him, and implore his favor on behalf of her people. Hatak returned and told Esther what Mordecai had said. Then Esther spoke to Hatak and gave him this message for Mordecai. All the king's officials, as well as the people in the royal provinces, know that if anyone, man or woman, approaches the king in the inner courtyard without being summoned, there is just one law: he must be put to death, unless the king holds out the gold scepter for him to remain alive. And I haven't been summoned to the king for the past 30 days. Upon being told what Esther had said, Mordecai asked them to give Esther this answer: don't suppose that merely because you happen to be in the royal palace, you will escape any more than the other Jews. For if you fail to speak up now, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from a different direction. But you and your father's family will perish. Who knows whether you didn't come into your royal position precisely for such a time as this? Esther had them return this answer to Mordecai: go, assemble all the Jews to be found in Shushan, and have them fast for me, neither eating nor drinking for 3 days, night and day. Also I and the girls attending me will fast the same way. Then I will go into the king, which is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. Then Mordecai went his way and did everything Esther had ordered him to do.
Chapter 5. On the third day, Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the palace in front of the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the hall, facing the entrance. When the king saw Queen Esther standing in the courtyard, she found favor in his eyes. So the king held out to Esther the golden scepter in his hand, and Esther approached and touched the top of the scepter. Then he said to her, "What is it, Queen Esther?" "Whatever you request, even as much as half of the kingdom, it will be given to you." So Esther said, "If it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come this day to the banquet that I have prepared for him." The king replied, "Bring Haman quickly so we may do what Esther said." Then the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther prepared. As they were drinking wine, the king said to Esther, "What is your request? It will be granted to you. Whatever you request, even as much as half the kingdom, it will be fulfilled." Esther answered and said, "My petition and my request is this: if I have found favor in the king's eyes, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and my request, then let the king and Haman come tomorrow to the banquet that I will prepare for them, and then I will do as the king requests." Haman went out that day happy and in good spirits. However, when Haman saw Mordecai at the king's gate, and he did not rise or tremble before him, Haman was filled with rage against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home. He sent for his friends and his wife Zeresh. Haman boasted to them about his vast wealth and his many sons, and how the king had promoted him and exalted him above the other officials and servants of the king. Haman added, "And that's not all. Queen Esther invited only me to accompany the king to a banquet that she prepared, and she has also invited me along with the king tomorrow. Yet all this does not satisfy me as long as I see Mordecai, the Jew, sitting at the king's gate." Then Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends said to him, "Let them set up gallows 50 cubits high, and in the morning ask the king to have Mordecai hanged on it. Then go happily with the king to the banquet." This idea delighted Haman, and he ordered the gallows to be built.
Chapter 6. That night the king could not sleep. So one was commanded to bring the book of the records of the Chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs, the doorkeepers, who had sought to lay hands on King Ahasuerus. Then the king said, "What honor or dignity has been bestowed on Mordecai for this?" And the king's servants who attended him said, "Nothing has been done for him." So the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the king's palace to suggest that the king hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. The king's servants said to him, "Haman is there standing in the court." And the king said, "Let him come in." So Haman came in, and the king asked him, "What shall be done for the man whom the king delights to honor?" Now Haman thought in his heart, "Whom would the king delight to honor more than me?" And Haman answered the king, For the man whom the king delights to honor, let a royal robe be brought, which the king has worn, and a horse on which the king has ridden, which has a royal crest placed on its head. Then let this robe and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that he may array the man whom the king delights to honor. Then parade him on horseback through the city square, and proclaim before him, "Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor." Then the king said to Haman, "Hurry, take the robe and the horse as you have suggested, and do so for Mordecai, the Jew who sits within the king's gate. Leave nothing undone of all you have spoken." So Haman took the robe and the horse, arrayed Mordecai, and led him on horseback through the city square, and proclaimed before him, "Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor." Afterward, Mordecai went back to the king's gate, but Haman hurried to his house, mourning and with his head covered. When Haman told his wife Zeresh and all his friends everything that happened to him, his wise men and his wife Zeresh said to him, "If Mordecai, before whom you have begun to fall, is of Jewish descent, you will not prevail against him, but will surely fall before him." While they were talking with him, the king's eunuchs came and hastened to bring Haman to the banquet which Esther had prepared. Chapter 7.
Chapter 7. So the king and Haman went to Queen Esther's banquet, and the king again said to Esther, "At the wine banquet, whatever your request, Queen Esther, you will be granted it. Whatever you want, up to half the kingdom, it will be done." Esther, the queen, answered, "If I have won your favor, king, and it pleases the king, then what I ask be given me is my own life and the lives of my people. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, killed, exterminated. If we had only been sold as men and women slaves, I would have remained quiet. Since then, our trouble would not have been worth the damage it would have caused the king to alter the situation." King Ahasuerus asked Esther, the queen, "Who is he? Where is the man who dared to do such a thing?" Esther said, "A ruthless enemy, it's that wicked Haman." Haman stood aghast, terrified before the king and queen. In a rage, the king got up from the wine banquet and went out to the palace garden. But Haman remained, pleading with Esther, the queen, to spare his life. For he could see that the king had decided to do him in. Haman had just fallen on the couch where Esther was when the king returned from the palace garden to the wine banquet. He shouted, "Is he even going to rape the queen here in the palace before my very eyes?" The moment these words left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Harvona, one of the king's attendants, said, "Look, the gallows 75 feet high that Haman made for Mordecai, who spoke only good for the king, is standing at Haman's house." The king said, "Hang him on it." So they hanged Haman on the gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the king's anger subsided. Chapter 8.
Eight. That same day, it's number 8, right? That same day, King Ahasuerus gave Queen Esther the estate of Haman, ooh, the enemy of the Jews. Then Mordecai came into the presence of the king, for Esther had revealed how he was related to her. The king took off his signet ring, which he had taken back from Haman, and gave it to Mordecai. Esther then appointed Mordecai over Haman's estate. Esther again pleaded with the king, falling at his feet and weeping. She pleaded with him to stop the evil of Haman, the Agagite, and his plan that he had devised against the Jews. Then the king extended the golden scepter to Esther, and she arose and stood before the king. And she said, "If it pleases the king, and if I have found favor before him, and it seems right to the king, and if I am pleasing in his eyes, let an edict be written rescinding the dispatches devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews who are throughout the king's provinces. For how can I endure seeing the disaster that would follow my people? How can I bear to see the destruction of my relatives?" King Ahasuerus said to Queen Esther and Mordecai the Jew, "I have decided to give Haman's estate to Esther and had him hang on the gallows because he stretched out his hand against the Jew. Now, write in the king's name on behalf of the Jews what seems good to you and seal it with the king's signet ring. For a decree that it is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring cannot be revoked." So the king's scribes were called at the time on the 23rd day of the third month, the month of Sivan. It was written according to all that Mordecai commanded to all the Jews, as well as to the officials, governors, and advisors to all the 127 provinces that stretch from India to Ethiopia. To each province it was written in its own script and in its own language, and also the Jews in their own writing and language. This decree was written in the name of King Ahasuerus, sealed with the king's ring, and sent on horseback by couriers who rode on the king's horses, especially bred for the speed. The king granted the ring to the Jews, the right for the Jews in every city to assemble themselves and to protect themselves, to destroy, to kill, and that word, Wayne, annihilate any army of any people or province that might attack them, and their women and children, and to plunder their possessions. The day appointed for this in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus was the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar. A copy of the written edict was distributed to every province and made known to the peoples of every nationality, so that the Jews would be ready on that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. The couriers that rode royal horses raced out, pressed on by the king's command. The decree was also given out at the palace at Shushan. Then Mordecai went out from the king's presence in blue and white royal robes with a large gold crown, and also a purple robe of fine linen. The city of Shushan shouted and rejoiced. For the Jews there was light and gladness, joy and honor throughout every province and throughout every city. Wherever the king's edict was and his law went, the Jews had gladness and joy, banquets and holidays. Many peoples of the land became Jews because the fear of the Jews had overcome them. Chapter 9.
Chapter 9. Consequently, on the 13th day of the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, the king's edict and his law drew near to be carried out. On that day, the enemies of the Jews had hoped to overpower them. But contrary to expectations, the Jews gained the upper hand over those that hated them. Jews assembled in their city throughout all the province of King Ahasuerus in order to lay hands on those seeking their harm. No one was able to stand against them, for fear of them had fallen on all the peoples, even all the administrators of the province, the officers and governors, and those doing business for the king helped the Jews, for the dread of Mordecai had fallen on them. Mordecai was prominent at the palace, and his fame spread throughout all the province. The man, Mordecai, was growing even more powerful. The Jews struck down all their enemies with the sword, killing and destroying, and they did whatever they wished to those who hated them. In the citadel of Shushan, the Jews killed and destroyed 500 people, including Pashanadathah, Dalphon, Asparatha, Puratha, Adalia, Arathatha, Paramestha, Arisai, Aradai, and Vasatha, the 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hamadatha, the enemy of the Jews. They slew them, but did not lay their hands on the plunder. On that day, the number of those that were killed in the citadel at Shushan was brought to the king's attention. Then the king said to Queen Esther, "The Jews have killed and destroyed 500 people in the citadel of Shushan, including Haman's 10 sons. What have they done in the rest of the king's province? Now what is your request? It shall be granted to you. What other petition do you have? It shall be done." "If it please the king," Esther said, "let the Jews in Shushan be allowed to carry out 2 days at it tomorrow also, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged on the gallows." The king commanded that this be done. A decree was issued in Shushan that they hang Haman's 10 sons. The Jews in Shushan gathered them together on the 14th day of the month, Adar, and they killed 300 men in Shushan, but they did not put their hands on the plunder. Meanwhile, the rest of the Jews who were in the king's province gathered together to protect themselves and get relief from their enemies. They killed 75,000 of their enemies, but they did not lay hands on their plunder. This happened on the 13th day of Adar, and on the 14th day they rested, making it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews that were in Shushan had assembled on the 13th day, and on the 14th and on the 15th they rested, making a day of feasting and gladness. This is why the rural Jews, those living in unwalled villages, made their 14th day of the month of Adar a day of gladness and feasting, a day of ascending presents of food to one another. The Purim festival is Mordecai recorded these events, and he sent letters to all the Jews throughout the province of King Ahasuerus, both near and far, urging them to celebrate the 14th and 15th day of Adar every year as the days when the Jews got relief from their enemies, and as the month when their sorrow was turned into joy and their mourning into celebration. They were to be days of feasting, celebration, and sending presents of food to one another and giving gifts to the poor. So the Jews agreed to continue the commemoration they had begun and do what Mordecai had written to them. For Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had schemed against the Jews to destroy them and had cast the pur, that is the lot, to ruin and destroy them. But when it came to the king's attention, he issued a written edict that the wicked scheme Haman had devised against the Jews should come back on his own head, and that he and his son should be hanged on the gallows. For this reason, these days were called Purim, from the word pur. Therefore, because of everything in this letter, and because of what they had seen and what had happened to them, the Jews established and took upon themselves, upon their descendants, and upon all who joined with them, that they would commemorate these 2 days in the way prescribed and at the appointed time every year. These days should be remembered and observed in every generation by every family and in every province and in every city. These days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the remembrance perish from their descendants. Then Queen Esther, the daughter of Abihail, and also Mordecai the Jew, wrote with full authority to confirm the second letter of Purim. He sent letters to all the Jews in the 127th province of the kingdom of Ahasuerus with words of shalom and truth, to establish these days of Purim at their designated times, just as Mordecai the Jew and Queen Esther had decreed for them, and just as they had established for themselves and their descendants matters regarding their times of fasting and lamentations, Esther confirmed these regulations about Purim, and it was written into the records. Number 10.
Okay. Now King Ahasuerus imposed a tribute upon the entire land, even to the coastlands of the sea. All the acts of his power and might, along with the full account of the greatness of Mordecai and the story of how the king promoted him. Are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia? For Mordecai, the Jew, was second only to King
Ahasuerus, permanent among the Jews, and held in high esteem by the multitude of his people. He sought their good and spoke for the welfare of his descendants. Amen. Yeehaw!
All right. Shabbat Shalom, y'all. So what we're going to do so that we can get everybody into position and maybe do a final mic check on all the mics, we're going to take like a 3 to 5 minute greeting time. But when I call you back together, let's all get back together. So give us a minute to get set up, test everything out, and then we will start. We'll pull you back together. You could probably leave the groggers with everybody because they're going to be cheering and cahooting with the play.
Test, 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 test.
Mama, test, test, test.
Test, test, test.
Testing, test, test, test. That's good. We're probably gonna need to like.
When you're ready, you don't need it yet, okay? It's your partner.
I can turn it on.
Yeah, I heard it.
This is the one you're carrying. Yes, this is in case somebody right to them. Okay. No problem. If you see me here,
As I was walking one morning for pleasure, spied a cowpuncher all riding along. His hat was thrown back and his spurs were a-jingling, and as he approached he was singing this song. Whoopie-tie-I-O, get along, little doggies, it's your misfortune and none of my own. Whoopie-tie-I-O, get along, little doggies, you know that Wyoming will be your new home.
That light's blinding me. That light's so bright.
It's early in the spring that we round up the doggies. We mark 'em and brand 'em and bob off their tails. Round up the horses, load up the chuck wagon.
Yeah, it's
Then
warm.
throw the doggies out on the north trail.
Yeah, it's warm. That light is blinding me. It's bright.
It's your
45 minutes maybe? Not sure. Yeah. Yep.
Looks like driftwood.
All right, if everybody will please take their seats once again. If everyone will please take their seats. If you would like to see the show, please take your seats. Everyone, please take your seats. And we do need you to take your seats because there will be activities at certain points up and down the aisles. So please take your seats. So everybody who would like to be here and see the spiel, please take your seats. All right. Is everybody ready? Are you all ready? All right, so I want you to listen very closely. Obviously, you just read the book of Esther, so you know the name of the heroes biblically. They're going to have a little bit of different name in here, so you're going to have to listen carefully for those names when you cheer for Mordecai, Hadassah, or Esther. Now, you're going to have to listen for their names in here, Hadassah, Esther. And we're going to say the anglicized form of Haman's name, Haman. That's the name you're looking for to boo. Try again, Haman. All right, so listen for the names, and then you'll know what to do. All right, if everybody's ready, we'll get started. Shabbat Shalom.
Way out west where tumbleweeds meet the tarantulas, rattlesnakes and outlaws cower to good men with boots, Bibles, and guns. Justice can be as refreshing as a spring of water, injustice as cold as steel. Courage is rare, but when it comes, it shines brighter than the brightest gold under the sun. The hills and valleys are a flurry with cowboys and cowgirls on cattle drives and campouts under the stars. And so a camping mama and her daughter begin our story.
Mama. Mama, you sure do tell some great stories. Will you tell me one night before we go to sleep?
Why, sure, darling. There are some exciting things happen around these parts.
Like what, Mama? Do you have a story tonight?
Do I? My dear, have I ever told you the story of how Hadassah, better known as Essie Mae Oakley, and her cousin, Texas Jack Mordecai, saved their people from being destroyed by that terrible outlaw, Haman the Kid?
Tell me, Mama, tell me.
Hush, dear. Mind, listen. It all started right here in the city of Shushan, and Marshal Wiley Burp was in charge most of the time, and he liked to uphold the law a bit and had order in his town. He also liked to eat a lot and count his money and show off a bit. And one day he was throwing a party when two strangers wandered into town. Well, I remember just like it was yesterday. It all started just like this.
We've been walking on this road for a long time, SMA. Let's try the next town. My boots are tight and my feet are sore.
Yes, Uncle.
Yay.
I hope this is a good town. Maybe we can settle down here for a bit and then one day go back home to Israel.
Well, that would just be dandy. That last town, when you shot the sheriff's horse, I thought we were goners for sure. But keep your rifle loaded, SMA, just in case. Ooh, my bunions.
Welcome, town folks and visitors from all over. My name is Marshall Wiley Burp. I'm the law around these parts. To celebrate a peaceful time with no outlaws, gangs, or shootouts, I'm going to throw a big hoedown. Come on, everybody. Yippee-yay! I have a great idea. Let's have my lovely wife, Vashti May, come out and sing and dance for you all. Tallulah, Tallulah Tumbleweed, where are you?
Hold your horses, Marshal Burr. I'm here, Marshal.
Go get my wife, Vashti May. I want her to entertain the town folks. This is my party, and she should be here.
Oh, Vashti May!
What do you want, you old coot?
Well, my dear, I want you to sing and dance for these fine town folks.
I wouldn't sing for them if they were the last people in Shoeshine.
Darling, you're embarrassing me in front of the town folks. You need to sing, or you're going to have to hit the trail. Saddle up and hit the trail.
Why, you no good, no horse cowboy, boots full of cow puggy, goat farmer. Let's just put it this way, I'm out of here.
If you're not in it for love, let me make it clear to you, my dear. If you're not in it for love, I'm out of here. There, now, Marshal Burp. All you gotta do is have one of them beauty contests and pick you a new lady. With all the fine women here in Shoeshine, that shall be easy as a piece of apple pie on Sunday.
You think so, Tallulah?
I know so. Why, who wouldn't want to be married to an upstanding, fine-looking man like yourself?
Vashti!
Let me handle this. I had to use paper towel because there wasn't none of the other stuff in the store. Ladies of Shoeshine, y'all listen up here now. By order of Marshal Wiley Burp, you are hereby ordered to report to Shoeshine Hall by 5 o'clock tomorrow. One of you is to become the Marshal's new wife.
This is awful. What kind of town is this? Forcing a marriage to a blubbering marshal? I'll fix this right now. No, Essie, wait!
Let's think about this. Maybe there is a reason for this. We just can't see it yet. Besides, of all the women in this town, what are the chances he'd pick you?
Are you serious? Ugh. Okay, Uncle Mordecai. I trust you. But this is the worst. I'll put on my happy face.
And leave your rifle here.
All right. We're going to invite all the ladies to be in the beauty contest, so please line up right here. The marshal needs a new wife. All the ladies who want to, not just the play ladies, all the ladies who want to be in the beauty contest. The marshal has to pick a new wife. Line up right here, right here, right here, right here, right here. All the ladies right here. We need more than two. Right here. Line up, line up. All you're going to do, one at a time, is you walk up in front of the marshal. He'll give you a thumbs up or thumbs down, whether he wants to make you his wife. All right. All the ladies line up right here. Michelina, I have a line for you. Get right here. I have a line for you. I have a line for you. All right. Anybody else? We're going to wait till we have everybody that wants to. All right. All right. We have all the ladies of Shushan. All right. I think Marshall has something he wants to say. Wait, right here. Wait a minute. Wait, not yet.
Now, ladies, listen up. I'm going to tell you what I like. I like apple pie. And I like nice walks in the park. I like foot rubs and back rubs.
Okay. Now you listen up, Marshall. We'll tell you what we want.
Huh.
This is what a woman wants. Any man of mine better be proud of me. Even when I'm ugly, he still better love me. I can be late for a date, that's fine, but you better be on time. Any man of mine will say it fits just right when life's shoes dress is just a little too tight. And anything I do or say better be okay when I have a bad hair day. And if I change my mind a million times, I wanna hear him say, yeah, 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 like it's not a way. Any man of mine better walk the line. Better show me it's teasing, squeezing, blazing kind of time. I need a man who knows how the story goes. There's gotta be a heart in the fire, take a breathtaking, earthquaking kind. Any man of mine. Well, any man of mine better disagree when I see another woman's looking better than me. And when I'm cooking dinner and I burn it like, you better say, I like it like that, yeah. And if I change my mind a million times, I wanna hear him say, yeah.
Be still my heart. What is your name, sweetheart?
My name is Hadassah Oakley.
Yeah.
But most folks call me Essie May.
Essie May, will you be my sweetheart?
Yeesh.
I think she said yes.
She calls me baby, baby. Hard to believe that she's, yes, she's with me.
And so, Essie Mae married the marshal, and sure enough, she took good care of the marshal, and also her cousin, who was called Uncle Mordecai. Essie did not shoot the marshal or his horse, at least not yet. And she helped Mordecai get a job in town.
What job was that, Mama?
I don't rightly know, but it was a good job. He always seemed to be at the right place at the right time. And one day he visited the Torah Saloon in Shushan. It was owned and operated by one of Mordecai and Essie's folk, some Jewish folk from Israel. But sometimes some scoundrels hung out in there too.
Well, if it isn't Texas Jack Mordecai, how have you been? How have you been, you mensch?
Texas Jack, by way of Israel. I'm good. How are you, Eli?
Could be better, could be worse. Thinking about joining Ezra in the land, but business is good. What can I get for you?
Whiskey.
No whiskey. I have Manischewitz pomegranate wine, straight from Israel.
Baruch HaShem. I'll have some.
Amen, amen. I brought it with my saddlebags full of matzah and gefilte fish.
You can keep the gefilte fish. Who are they?
Don't get involved with them. They're up to no good. Anti-Torah stuff. You might listen in and get an idea for yourself.
I think it's time we got rid of this marshal, took over his ranch, his cattle, his woman, and his badge.
Yeah, he's a big crybaby. Let's do it.
Deal me in.
All right, stranger. So what you get?
Voices.
Now that's pretty lucky, stranger. In fact, I can't remember the last time a stranger walked into my game and dropped 4 aces on my call.
I guess your luck is just run out.
Funny, stranger, I didn't hear no bet. So what's the bet?
Your life.
All right, boys.
Texas Jack Mordecai, by way of Israel, cleaned up the Torah saloon and saved the marshal's life. And Miss Tallulah Tumbleweed happened to see it all, and she wrote it down in the marshal's records. But now, because some of these events, the marshal decided that he needed to hire a new deputy, someone to act as his right-hand man. Unfortunately, he picked the wrong guy.
Say it ain't so, Mama. Who'd he pick?
A renegade from the outlaw Amalek gang. His name was Haman the Kid.
I'm Haman the Kid. I'm rotten to the core. I arrested my mama for serving me Brussels sprouts. I'm the rootinest, tootinest, fastest, shootinest, biggest bootinest.
Hey, son! Quiet over there.
Well, if it isn't Texas Jack Mordecai. Don't you know who I am?
No, but does your mama know you're out this late? It's getting dark. You should be probably getting home.
Home? I'm Haman the Kid. And now I'm deputy marshal of this town. I ain't no little boy.
But you just said you're Haman the Kid. You know, a kid means a young boy from where I come from, or a goat. In fact, I would call you a boy chick, as in Haman the boy chick.
It's the Kid. Around here, folks bow and tremble to my name.
Son, I have 2 books by my bedside. The Woman's Guide to the West and the TLV Bible. I don't bow to anyone except the Lord my God. Besides, I'm not from around these parts. I'm from Israel.
Well, 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 my old enemy. King Saul should have finished us off when he had the chance. Now I've got a badge. What do you think of that?
First of all, it's plastic. And I bet the marshal don't know who you really are. More like an outlaw than a deputy. I think I'll be seeing you again.
He knows I'm an outlaw, and I have a bank to rob. I think it's time I take care of him and his family and all his friends from Israel. I know, I'll start deputizing townsfolk. Then I'll put up wanted posters of him and his family all over town. So when I rob the bank, they will get the blame. Then I'll take care of Texas Jack myself. And now, a visit for Marshal Burp.
Mama, Haman, the Kid is going to do away with Texas Jack, Essie, and all their people. Someone's got to do something.
Now hold on there, baby girl. Don't get your spurs all in a cattywampus. Let me finish the story. So Haman, the Kid, went to see Marshal Burp.
Marshal, it has come to my attention that we have a family of outlaws in our town, and they're planning to rob the bank.
What? This is terrible. Haman, you must do something about this.
I'm already taking care of it.
Good. I'm going to count the money at the bank. Make sure it's all still there.
So Haman, the Kid, started hanging posters right away. And people seeing the posters got suspicious of Texas Jack and his whole family. and they were in grave danger.
Does that mean that Essie's life was in danger too, Mama?
That's right, dear. But remember, no one else knew about Essie except Uncle Mordecai.
Oh, that's right. You sure do tell a mean yarn, Mama.
Why, thank you. Texas Jack Mordecai went to Essie Mae and he told her the news.
Essie, what a cactus patch. Haman is planning on deputizing the townsfolk to get rid of us for a bank robbery he's going to commit. You have to go tell the marshal that Haman is the real outlaw. He's going to rob the town bank and then blame us for it. No, Essie. First, I think you have to convince the marshal that Haman is the outlaw. Then the townsfolk will know that they have been lied to. There's a fight coming, and maybe Adonai or God put you in the spot for such a time as this.
All right, I'll go. And I have an idea. First, I want all our boys here in Shoeshine to pray for me. We're not going to take this lying down.
Amen, amen. Will do.
The boys round here sending up a prayer to the man upstairs. Backwoods legit, don't take no lip. Shoot her back and shoot her back and shoot her back a spit. Boys round here sending up a prayer to the man upstairs. Backwoods legit, don't take no lip. Shoot her back and shoot her back and shoot her back a spit.
Yoo-hoo, Marshall.
Essie, what are you doing here? It's dangerous. I'm counting the money, and there's outlaws around.
I was wondering if you and Haman would like dinner, barbecue chicken, wild rice, fresh baked rolls.
Why, Essie, that sounds scrumptious. Look here, my stomach is growling already.
So, Essie told Marshall and everything was taken care of, right?
No, not quite yet. You see, it's like playing cards. When you're in a tight spot, you want to make sure that every move you make and every word you say is right. And you just gotta watch the other guy real close. And the timing's gotta be perfect. Otherwise, you could lose the game. You just gotta.
You gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done.
Boy, that was good eating. I love that barbecue chicken. But how can I be happy when Texas Jack won't even bow to me? It's about time for a showdown.
Tallulah, I can't sleep.
Don't you have a mama or a wife?
You're right. Could you read me a bedtime story?
No, but I will read you right out of the Shoeshine Town records, I reckon. Are you listening, Marshall?
Yes,
Okay, because you look like you was about to snow.
No.
Back at the Torah Saloon, Texas Jack Mordecai overheard outlaws planning to do you in and good. Texas Jack fought them and threw them all in jail. What a guy.
Wait a minute. Did I ever reward Texas Jack for saving my life?
No, sir. Not one little itsy bitsy weeny teeny yellow polka dot bikini little bit.
Well, I'll be snake bit. Haman!
Boo.
Haman!
Boo.
Haman, Haman! Haman!
Boo.
I need to know what to do for a real town hero, a man with real courage.
That's me to a T. You should give him your best horse to ride through town, and you should have a person of high regard walking through town saying, "Yee-haw, this is a real cowboy."
Yippee-ki-yay! Do everything you just said for Jack Mordecai. Texas Jack Mordecai.
No!
Just for fun, sun up to sundown, rolling around, see where the bad guys ought to be found and make them lay down. The defenders of the West, crushing on pretenders in the West. Don't mess with us, cause we in the
I guess Haman got what was coming to him, huh, Mama?
Well, not quite yet. Later that night, the marshal and Haman went to the second feast that Essie had prepared for them. And that, my dear, sorry guys.
Okay, fellas, we have a thick T-bone steaks hot off the grill, mashed potatoes, and dessert, my special apple pie.
Thank you, darling, for inviting us tonight. Everything was delicious, but you still haven't told me what you want.
You're right. What I want is the life and the lives of my family to be spared.
What do you mean?
Someone has plotted to rob the bank, steal all the money, and blame me and my family for the whole thing. It's someone in this room, and it ain't you.
Haman, the kid!
Ooh.
You traitor! How could you do this?
Do you think I cared about your little town? All I ever wanted was y'all's money.
I trusted you. Boy, I should string you up by your boots. You're going to get what's coming to you.
I'll handle this. It's time to go to school, son. Now come take your whooping like a man.
Texas Jack, so here we are at the OK Corral, and it's high noon.
I have a question. Why do they call it the OK Corral? Why not the Fabulous Corral, or the Magnificent Corral? Why just the OK Corral? Just saying.
You know, I'll enjoy beating you and taking all this town's money. I'm younger and faster than you.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking there's no way a guy like me can beat you. But being that I serve Adonai, my God of heaven and earth, you have to ask yourself this one question. Do I feel blessed? Well, do you, punk?
Mordecai.
Texas Jack, you've done it. I'm going to make you my #1 deputy.
Yay. And that, my dear, is the story of how Texas Jack Mordecai and Essie Oakley saved all their people.
What a great story, Mama. Can you tell me another one?
Maybe tomorrow, honey. Good night, y'all.
Come on up, guys. All right. I hope you enjoyed a wild, wild Purim. I want to thank all of our actors and actresses and behind the scenes people who helped put this together, everybody. There's a lot of people that goes into this. I want to thank Jeff for the stage, all the Smith family. So I want to thank Jeff as Marshall Wiley Burp. Brad is Poker Player Scoundrel 1 and Kenny Rogers. Dante is Poker Player Scoundrel 2. Miss Jody is Tallulah Tumbleweed. Sam is Texas Jack Mordecai. Devin as Eli the bartender and one of the praying kids who were chewing tobacco. Elijah as Haman. Miss Penny as one of our narrators, Mama narrator. Crystal as daughter narrator. Sarah as Queen Vashti, or Mrs. Vashti.
and Rebecca as Essie Mae Oakley, Judah as a horse dinner server, and Ember as a little cowgirl dinner server. I want to thank my wife, the Smith family, Patrick in the back with music, everybody, all of you who contributed in being here. Thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed it. Shabbat Shalom. Here's.
I also want to thank Rabbi Isaac for always writing these. Be blessed, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. We can use some help to tear down the set if anyone's interested in helping out. Board of Directors, let's have a meeting.